Assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are we all? Good. So in the next 20 minutes, I want to build on exactly some of the things that we've been hearing today from the previous speakers about frameworks, about artificial intelligence, and about data. Because at the end of the day, this has to be made real. If everything you've seen, if you cannot make it real, it's not going to add value. So let me just take a few moments of your time to talk through this. So firstly, as an introduction, I'm from Briesite, a G42 company. We were born here in the UAE. We code here in the UAE. We specialize in many different things. One of the things that we absolutely love is building emergency system platforms and public safety platforms. So what we build here is coded in the UAE, but we love to be able to take what we build in the UAE and take it to the international market. And so I think that's incredibly important as we move forward and as we expand our UAE economy. Now, I don't know if anyone got involved in this one. You always think everything's going to be fine. You think the busiest international airport, probably one of the ones in the world, will have a backup power supply, will have a backup system. But as we learned painfully, there was a complete outage of power, right? And you think, well, how can that possibly happen? It wasn't just 1 hour. It wasn't a flip over. It was 18 hours. So one substation fire put the busiest international airport out of business. And how can that be? How could that scenario not have been thought about? But if you think about it, there are scenarios like that every day, all happening around the world, where we weren't able to think about the bigger picture. We weren't able to think ahead or simulate those kind of scenarios and test what would happen if there was a fire in a power station. It's good that we know that we have backup supplies, but if we can't reconnect it for many hours, it doesn't help us. So AI and big data is going to be an integral part of making this work. Now, we all know from the work that you do yourselves that we have to be better on prediction, we have to prevent, and we have to prepare more. We have to address and mitigate as fast as possible. But quickly, I just mentioned that, you have to be able to recover. And when I recover, what did I learn from that? And how do I replace that? So artificial intelligence related to the big data is going to be the way that you get that done. Now, you know as well as I do all the different types of emergency. Public health crises we've been dealing with. We've had the COVID, natural disasters. We've had technology disasters, power stations, radioactive materials, all sorts of things. And in many countries, of course, social crisis as well. But at the end of the day, everything we do and everything we get up for is really about saving lives. It's about public health and security and stabilizing the country. Right? Because the more an emergency persists, especially at large level, it affects the economy in a bad way and affects your reputation. As well as building community resilience is so important within countries today. We have to have people cohesive. And when I think about some of the things that we've really been needing to work on here in Briesite, here in the UAE, we thought, well, what if we could take, like today, an earthquake comes and you'd know about it when something bad happens. You feel the ground move, that's your earliest warning. What if we had a technology where we could predict a 7.5 Richter scale kind of earthquake 10 days ahead of time? What kind of imaginative things could happen if you could predict such things? What kind of disasters would have been averted? Now, there's technologies that are already being researched, and we're looking into these. One of these is related to cosmic rays and the way that large earthquakes of very big size actually have a signature. But of course, wildfires, we've seen so much that. We saw what happened in Los Angeles. We talked about resilience, right? Well, if I knew what the weather was coming, that's great. If I had a better prediction, I might be able to do something there. But what about having water actually for the fire engines in the right place? So again, something that people have prepared for but wasn't there, it wasn't ready. So if we can predict fires far, far ahead of the game, while they're still able to be put out, that's going to have a tremendous difference. So we need to use our satellite technologies better, we need to use our thermal technologies better, but we need to program that and bring that into artificial intelligence to deliver those outcomes. Flooding. You know, it seems like it either gets too hot or it gets too wet and it all comes at once. So flooding, if we can be able to simulate and understand what would happen in Barcelona, what might happen in Dubai, we've seen what happened in Dubai. If we can be more predictive and understand what's coming, we can start putting mitigation plans in places. But without that data and without that evidence, no one will listen to you to say that we need to put that in place. So you need the ability to be able to do better prediction, right, so that you can mitigate. And we're going to talk a little bit on our digital twins and how that helps us. But here's another project that we're working on, weather and climate. Today, the weather forecasts, we like to think they're accurate, but honestly, after a few days, they're not. What if we could be much more predictive with the current data we have using modeling and say there's going to be a huge rainfall here in the UAE or here in Egypt or in Spain or anything like this with a greater degree of certainty? That would allow us to prepare and be ready. So again, this is something that we are currently working with in pilot here within the UAE. But understanding air pollution, where's the air pollution coming from? That has a huge impact on public health. And being able to respond better, faster, and faster to incidents that happen in infrastructure, like we just spoke to. Now, without the AI automation part of that, it'll be very hard to improve your KPIs. So you know basically the four phases, as we've sort of previewed here: the prevention, preparedness, the response, and the recovery. All of this is a big data and AI pathway, right? A roadmap that you can change. So whether it's predictive modeling for flooding, being ready, collecting more and more data. And if I've collected that more and more data, am I processing it properly? And we're going to come to that, because that today seems to me to be one of the biggest problems why we are not getting the goals that we want to get to in terms of our response times and ability to be read. And of course, we've seen a lot of command and control systems, real-time readiness. Something's happening right now, but is it fully optimized? Am I really responding to it in time? Did I really have the people in the right places? Right? Did I have the staff rosters set up? Was the right training in places? So that real-time data collection has become more and more critical. So yes, things will happen, but let's respond to it faster and smarter. And then, of course, there's the learning, right? And I think that applies a lot in life. Is you think maybe something will only happen once, or it's many years before it happens again, right? But we really need to learn. We need to continually assess ourselves. We need to fire drill ourselves continually to ensure that we can deliver higher and higher levels of quality. So whether that's doing damage assessments and building that into artificial intelligence models, or just making smarter use of the data you've got, being able to have that honest conversation: am I doing the best I can? Do I have all the data? Do I have all the processes in place to make that happen? And really, this picture sort of puts it all together for me in terms of that artificial intelligence command and control center of the future. Really, it has the local impact, it has the local leaderships in there, it has the regional leaderships in there, and it has the federal services. All of these must be connected. If things are run alone, they often don't turn out quite the way you want. And you see that in a lot of situations where all the different levels of government and leadership, especially in many countries around the world, where they're not working together, when they're not fully optimized. So that needs to be brought together. But it's always clear, you will never be successful in building AI if you don't know what happened, if you can't load in what happened in the last 30 days, the last 180 days, the last 2 years. Because that model data will alert you, right? So what happened in the past, what's happening right now? Yeah, not a theoretical view, but an actual view in real time, in digital form. And I keep coming back to this, because this is the most important thing. What will happen? What will happen if there's a fire? What will happen if there's an emergency on a highway? What will be the impact? Right? So what will happen? Being predictive is so very important. But of course, and I've worked in these systems around the world. A lot of the time, there's a lot of manual processes in there. Right? And that's good, because in one way, we want the human to be in that loop. But at the same time, we must weed out as much of the manual processes that can be done. Right? And I think you've seen some very good examples out there on the floor today already. But you need to continue that journey of automated action. And AI will continue to evolve and start to make smarter actions now on your behalf, so that you get things done quicker. Now, I mentioned the command and control. So that's what's happening right now. But the future of command and control is a little bit different. The future of everything will be more related in digital twins. So digital twins is a complete simulation of your whole city, your whole country. It could be simulations of buildings, it can be simulations of airports. So everything needs to enter a digital twin. If you're truly going to be successful, you cannot be successful without building everything into a model of digital twin. With this way, you're going to meet your KPIs. With this way, I can be more predictive. I can tell what highways will flood and where I need my services in time. And that's all a data-driven action. So again, it comes back to what has happened in the past, what is happening now, what will happen in the future, but importantly, simulate. Test on situations that you've never come across, because AI will certainly be able to really figure out, did you think about this scenario? Did you think about this scenario? Let me run this through the model. So digital twins are really, really essential to build truly dynamic, resilient services for whether it's for a city or for a country, or potentially the world. Now, in all these years, and it's always, I can't believe like after 15 years I'm still doing this, it's amazing how much data is not available. There is data in different silos, and I kind of put a nice picture up here. I'll walk up here just to sort of show it a little bit more. We have lots of data across the organizations, across our emergency service, across our government, but not all of it's being exposed, and some of it's not being connected. True leadership is when you're able to expose that data, surface it, and process it. That's how you win. That's how it works. So whilst we can succeed and we can make progress on a certain amount of data, it's clearly obvious that we're going to need more to be that true, successful leader in the resilience management. And so where I look to achieve, to get everyone to, is surface the data that's needed. And sometimes you don't even know what's needed. Surface as much as possible, have all the systems connected, and take all that data, collect it, and build that into a process model. And we heard a few speakers talking on this earlier, but machine learning makes sense of that data, because it's hard to make sense of that data from a human perspective. Use generative AI. And now you're going to use the agentic AI. Agentic AI is basically a whole set of large language models working together with an orchestration model with specialist areas. This is the way you achieve that perfection that you're looking for. That roadmap is absolutely essential for you to be successful in this area. And I just broke it down. I said on the left-hand side here, you see what the past was. We had limited data. We're doing well. We're adding more and more data, but we've got to add more. So that data platform, that data collection is essential. Improving our core systems that should be unified with AI at the core, and then plan for that next generational response. Because that's it. That full generative AI, that agentic AI, is where you get your success, is where you're optimized and where you have your efficiency. So whether that's more robotic process automation, cognitive understanding, or autonomous EMS, that's the path, right? And it's not difficult in the sense because the technology's there, but you do need to be able to assemble the architecture and put it together in the right way. So I want to give an example. So Briesite Lifesaver is what we built and coded here in the UAE. It is today part implementation within SEMA, so it's already used here within the UAE for all types of crisis types management across the board. And you can see many examples, both on the NSEMA stand and under Briesite, and you can see this in action. This brings everything together, like we mentioned. It brings the police, it brings the drones, it brings the RFID, it brings the volunteers and experts together. You see, without everyone working together, without all that information together, you never really get to that success of where you're trying to get to. Now, going beyond that, another great partnership that we're doing with the Department of Health here is Lifesaver, but used for the ambulance and hospital services. So making sure that we deliver the best healthcare outcome in emergencies. Where are our people? Where are our dispatchers? Where are our agents? So again, this is a program that we're working with the DOH, and a lot more is going to come out of that. You'll see a lot more of this in the press. And again, just some examples. People say, well, what does that deliver as an outcome? Well, actually, the outcomes it delivers is it finds you the closest hospital, it finds you the closest ambulance that's critical, where are my first responders, where are my resources across the organization, what's my staff rosters, what type of doctors do I have available on roster. So bringing all that information together delivers that outcome that you're really looking for. And I put on the right side there, again, that little bit of a reference. Understand what happened in the past, understand what's happening now so that you can be much more predictive in the future. And you're going to draw a lot of data from all sorts of sources, data lakes, and I'm not here to be the technical guy today, but large language models, you're going to pull all that information in. When you achieve that, the world becomes much easier to manage and build those systems and solutions that you imagine to meet your KPIs of the future. So to be able to connect everything, to have a complete, this is a screenshot from our system outside here, bringing the police together, bringing the fire together, bringing the security services together, being informative. When do we send out the messages to the public, making sure our news is correct? This is an essential part of a true AI command system. And this is where we get to that next level of greatness in that next generation compared to what we have today. Now, I started talking about the emergency systems and platforms, EMS and emergency preparedness. But actually, my learning, doing this around the world, was it's not just about the emergency. I need to connect into something called the smart city. Because on the one hand, we are building these smart cities. We're spending millions and millions, billions of dollars on building smart cities. Well, actually, the emergency management system, that should all be part of the city as well. So whether that's looking at my traffic services, whether that's looking at my smart buildings, or looking at my climate and energy conservation systems, or whether I'm looking into my oil and gas business, my nuclear business, my hydro business, I need a platform that goes beyond that command and control. I need to be able to see that complete holistic picture. And this is what I was talking about earlier from the digital twin. So we have a platform which is an underlay for a smart city, and then you also have your emergency management system which complements that and builds with that too. And that's essential. A lot of people around the world have missed that opportunity to bring their smart city and their emergency management. They've had separate budgets and they've gone on their own paths. And they've created data that each organization, the city mayor could use as much as the actual civil defense people themselves. So something to really think about when you're building that model of the future. Am I bringing my city on board with me as well? And those people that have taken advantage of that, you really see them move up that city livability index, that city safety index, and tend to be world leaders. And Singapore, for example, would be a good example, as here would be the UAE. So when I brought all the different data, and again, this diagram was not really for you to go into detail, essentially, but at the bottom layer here are all the essential components you need to be successful. Without these ingredients, I say, that are in the kitchen, it's very hard to be successful, right? So those IoT services, those large language models, bringing it into a layer that understands, what am I looking at? Am I looking at a drone? Am I looking at a computer vision service? I'm looking at a smart vest? What is it? I need to be able to process it and understand it. I need to deliver that as a real-time live analytics, whether that's video or data. I need to build my digital twin on top of that so it's learning as we go. So whether I'm running as operational, whether I'm looking at this from the analysis and preparation of my plans for future, or whether I'm actually running in the field now with all the new technologies. And I think it's very hard outside to see maybe 50% of the stands out there have some form of drone technology. So drones will have a much more greater effect going forward. And something I haven't put up here, but I'm sure you know it's coming, is robots. Robots will be increasingly used. We've seen those emergency services like the spot the dog kind of models, but humanoid robots will also be making their entry at some point, because from a navigating a human world, humanoid robots can climb stairs better. Potentially they can pick up objects and take things out, so being much more agile. So a robotics framework is also important for you to cook into your future blueprint. Now, one thing I've talked about a lot about the technology, but what does it help if people are not being trained? Right? So people need to understand what you can do with artificial intelligence. So in Bright, we've been developing learning platforms where we can deliver smarter education, smarter, quicker, faster. Understand how my students, my first responders are doing, how are my teachers of my emergency services doing, how is my overall department performing in terms of delivering on those educations that people need, and to be able to simulate and do advanced testing in the field, because without people, not much gets solved. ultimately, right? So education and faster education, smarter education is really going to be critical, especially in remote situations or where you need to train up people fast. So never take the education piece out of the loop as we move forward quickly. The biggest problem I ever had in getting things done was nothing about technology. If you ask me to build something today, I'll build it for you. The problem was making sure that everyone was aligned. And perhaps you've seen this yourself in various different organizations. This was a workshop I did on emergency and big data. And I realized that the only way this technology would be adopted is if everyone got together and we agreed on the vision, but not did we just agree on the vision, but we actually executed as well. So that planning and bringing everyone here. Without the people on board, the technology didn't really do anything. So that's like 90% of my work is getting people on board. So the lessons learned at the end of the day really is the people that lead in this world, the people that understand their data, right? The people that lead in this world that understand and put the right systems in place. The people that lead in this world understand how to do the finance better. Because we talked a lot about AI, but we weren't really talking about the finance. So how do we do shared better finance models? And being able to involve the AI technology as quick as possible into those systems, because you really will get your return. So that's my summary, very fast, probably like 20 years compressed into a few minutes. And I hope that's been of interest. So my name is Martin Yeites. I work for Briesight. Please do connect with me. And whatever you're doing in your roles out there today, I wish you great success and lots of good luck, and make sure that we have the best emergency systems on the planet. Thank you very much for your time. Shukran.